Eligible to end after Week 8, the Seattle Seahawks are positioned to make a push to sign Antonio Brown, though they are not alone. There are other teams also interested in Antonio Brown's services, but it looks like there's a possibility that he could be back as soon as Week 9, and Seattle is one of the teams making plans right now or preparations to pursue him. Keep in mind here that Antonio Brown spent part of the offseason working out with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. He's good friends with both Seahawks quarterbacks. He's remained in contact with them. They've told him how he could fit in Seattle, what it would be like to bring him to the Seahawks. Can you imagine Antonio Brown in Seattle playing for the Seahawks? What a combination that could and would be. Now, again, they have not begun contract negotiations, and there are other teams interested. But the fact that there's this much activity around Antonio Brown now tells you that there's a real chance he's going to be back in the league here real soon. And Seattle looks like the most logical landing spot at this point in time.
Wow. Shefty, can you tell us, you mentioned the suspension and that we could see Antonio Brown soon. Can you just tell us exactly the parameters around why he would be able to play as soon as that?
Yeah, well, listen, the league suspended him this summer, and it suspended him for 8 weeks. We are coming on week 7 here right now. Then would be the 8th week. At that point, he would be eligible to be reinstated. Now, there's no guarantee that he's going to be. There has been some discussion and speculation that the NFL could impose additional discipline on him, and we don't know what way that's going to go at this particular moment. But my sense, reading between the lines, is that there's a real chance that the league might not. And if it doesn't, then Antonio Brown could be on the field as early as Week 9. That's the earliest he could be on the field, Laura. Now, he also would have to go to visit a team, pass through the COVID protocols. That's a 5-day process that could slow things down some. But if there was a team that was ready to make a move on Antonio Brown, it could bring him to that town next week and have him ready to go for the following week. And we saw what happened last year. He stepped right into New England, played one game before the Patriots released him, made an instant impact. But again, think about Antonio Brown in Seattle. Wow.
Yeah, that one game for the Patriots last year, Adam, 4 catches for 56 yards, and that instant impact that you referenced feels like, to your point, the Seahawks wouldn't be talking about maybe signing him if they didn't feel like the NFL would allow him to play. Adam, stay close. You'll be with us as this news continues to develop and much more here on NFL Live today. Keyshawn Johnson is here, as well as Dan Orlovsky and Marcus Spears. And Key, I'll start with you. As you hear the idea that Antonio Brown could potentially join this Seahawks offense already with DK Metcalf performing at such a high level, what comes to mind?
It's Pete Carroll. And it's not just Russell Wilson, but it's Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll has a history of giving guys second and third and fourth chances to have baggage coming from Buffalo, or whether it was Josh Gordon coming over from New England that had some off-the-field issues. If you can help the team win and you stay out of trouble, you will have a home in Seattle. He has a history of it. I mean, guys that have failed at other places have gone on and had success in Seattle. Now, you could argue whether that's right or wrong. It's a bottom-line business in the National Football League. We're looking to win football games, and if you can help us, we're willing to have you on the team.
Yeah, you mentioned some of those issues, some of the baggage. He was accused of sexual assault and rape in a civil lawsuit September 11th of last year. And, of course, all of that still remains to be completely worked out. He was only with the Patriots for 2 weeks after being with the Raiders. Dan, as you hear this breaking news about Antonio Brown, what do you think he could bring to that Seahawks offense?
Oh, this offense would be unstoppable if AB was there. I mean, this is me making an assumption that AB is in some form of physical shape and ready to play football. I mean, if he goes and joins that offense, it clearly becomes the best receiver group in the NFL with DK Metcalf. And, you know, Lockett's outstanding, and David Moore is very good too. So, like, they would have 4 legit receivers, and then Greg Olsen. So you got 2 speed guys. You know, DK obviously is a deep ball threat, but now AB brings another deep ball threat on the opposite side. So this offense would be, with Russell Wilson, good luck to the NFC. I mean, this would be a huge, huge signing. If they get him in a good place and he's physically ready, that would be enormous for this team.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what Dan and Keith said about the talent, we obviously know that that's there. This is more about off the field and the fit. And I tend to agree with Key on Pete Carroll and making sure that the environment is right, that you bring in AB into. Obviously, if Russell Wilson wants him there, that's a heavy voice, considering that he's had what he's had throughout the league. So, and sometimes that's what it takes, man. More so.
This, according to NFL Network's Jane Slater, an unnamed Cowboys player said members of the coaching staff, quote, aren't good at their jobs. Another player said the coaches are totally unprepared. They don't teach.
I haven't been part of any of those type of discussions. I think, like a lot of things, when you hit a part of your season or any challenge where there is negativity out there, where it comes from and who it comes from. I mean, that's something that I've never chased, but I think you do have to recognize it. I think it's important to handle things as men. I mean, if you do have something to say publicly that is of most importance, I think it's important to say it to the individual, particularly in a
guy that's actually playing, like a Russell Wilson. I think Tom Brady vouched for him when he was coming to New England. AB just has to make sure he's in the right frame of mind. Personally, make sure he understands that the things that transpired before, he can't do again, or it won't be a next time. So, yeah, from a football standpoint, it's a no-brainer. This dude was trending towards being one of the best receivers to ever play the game, if not already there. He's a gold jacket, Hall of Fame type talent for sure. Bringing him into the right environment, making sure that the guys that he feels accountable to the players, more importantly than the guys that are in the front office or the general manager or the head coach, which I think is the most important element in this. And based on the things that we've heard about Russell Wilson working out with him, Geno, DK Metcalf, I'm sure that they will have to be welcoming to AB coming on board as well, because remember, this team is undefeated and in position to make a strong push at making the Super Bowl as well. So AB will have to fit in their environment and their culture with those players more so than the front office and the coaches.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was that period of time last season where it felt like every other day there was something else going on with AB, and there were times when even all of us use the word sad, like wondering about his mental health, wondering about his well-being overall. And yet now it seems like he's been quiet for a while, Key. Like maybe he has been, and we don't know for sure what he's been doing, but maybe he has been more focused on getting back into the game that he loves. That remains to be seen. But if you're DK Metcalf and you're on this team and you've been proving yourself as this number one type guy, how do you feel about AB coming in and maybe taking some catches, taking some opportunities away?
I'm fine. The mission and the goal is to get to Tampa to win the Super Bowl. And if this guy comes in and there's no issues, which I don't see any issues at all, and you say, well, what has AB been doing? He's been training. He's been waiting for this opportunity no matter what team it is. And if I'm DK Metcalf, I don't have anything to worry about. He's no threat to me. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do as long as he comes in and does what he's supposed to do. There will be no issues at all. Yeah, we can share the ball.
Well, I can't believe you just said that.
No,
that's
we
okay.
can't.
All right.
There's more than one receiver on the team.
Very true. All right, we got more news out of the NFL to get to as well. I know, they can't believe it. Adam Schefter, let's get you back in here. And what do you know? This is related to the Raiders.
Well, Laura, in a season that's become the whack-a-mole season for the NFL, just as one problem goes away, another one pops up. And the latest one to pop up is today in Las Vegas, where the Raiders have placed their offensive lineman, Trent Brown, on the reserve COVID-19 list. But not only did they place Trent Brown on that list, but they sent home all 5 of their offensive linemen because of contact tracing and them being in proximity to Trent Brown. Now, John Gruden said that he's hoping that all the offensive linemen can be back in the building tomorrow, but they don't know that yet. And they're hoping that Trent Brown is okay. And John said he was worried about his health. And so this is the latest situation that's unfolding. The Raiders right now are scheduled to play the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. And these are the issues that we knew could always become reality this year, where a team could lose a unit, an entire unit. And we're not saying that that's going to happen. But again, Trent Brown, their left tackle, placed on COVID-19, and the other offensive lineman sent home today.
Adam, you'll keep us updated on all of that and so much more. We're going to continue to talk about Antonio Brown on NFL Live, but we are just getting started, and we're going to get to Ryan Fitzpatrick sharing his heartbreaking moment in Miami, what Tua time means for the Dolphins. The guys react and have some different takes than they did yesterday. We'll be right back.
And I'm still excited for Tua. Let me get that out first before I get into it. But I think as a veteran in this league and what Fitzpatrick has done in Miami, I feel like it would have been a great gesture. I hate using the word deserve because these organizations don't feel like they owe you anything but a paycheck. But you would think that that he would be informed and it'll be a discussion had, as opposed to him being heartbroken and in shock and being caught off guard by the timing that you're going to put Tua in the game. He knew, like Ryan is not, he's not crazy enough to think that a quarterback will be taken fifth and never have an opportunity to play. I just didn't like the fact that he was shocked about that news. I think they owed him at least a little bit of heads up before the world knew.
Yeah, first of all, Fitzy, if this was your last game in the NFL, man, tip of the cap. Salute. Like, you've had an awesome, awesome career, and I know you're still going to be kind of impacting Tua. You know, I think that the reality is this. Sometimes disappointing things happen in the NFL, and this is one of them. But spinning it forward to the football field, Tua's going to be fine. Like, I think Tua is going to be a great player, and he's going to have tons of success. But I said this yesterday, and I stand by it. I'm concerned with that offensive line because Tua is not a year yet removed from that injury. He is somebody that holds on to the ball, competitive and wanting to make a play or whatnot. But you watch that offensive line that's got two young guys on the right side that are rookies, and Hunt and Kenley. And yes, like, they're going to have moments of wins. But Fitzy helped them a little bit. Like, this is an exact sample. Fitzy, got to get the ball in your hands. That's a second and a half. I don't know if Tua is going to do that consistently. That's bad protection, ends in a good result. Another one. This isn't great protection. You got 2 seconds to get the ball in your hands before those ends come. And if you don't, if it's not out in 2.5 seconds, you're going to get hit. And then there's some times where it's coming. It doesn't matter because those are still young players. They're going to be good in the NFL. They are going to be good players. But that's a sack for Tua. And Fitzy's just got this feel that the ball has to come out right now, and all of a sudden it's 2nd and 4, not 2nd and 15. So that is my hesitation with this move is I hope that offensive line keeps him clean.
Look, it's clear, like Marcus said, it was going to happen. Fitzy knew that. I mean, it's just, I understand the emotional side of it. Maybe you wanted a little bit of a heads up just because you felt like, okay, you followed everything, you did everything the right way, the way they asked you to. You're 3-3, you're 1 game out of first place. But let's be honest and real here. Do we honestly really think that they were going to win the AFC East, go on a run in the playoffs? No, we don't. So why not start right now with Tua at quarterback? You got to bye. You play the Rams. And I know Aaron Donald's coming to town, the whole deal. You got to worry about that. He's played in the SEC. He's used to big boys like Marcus Spears tackling him and jumping up and down on him. So it's not that I don't worry about that. Yeah. I don't worry about that at all. Fitzy did his job as a substitute teacher. It's time to now hand the classroom over to the guy that they hired, which is Tua.
Well, Adam, when you broke this news, you were talking about the fact that they had this plan and that it had been in place. So how did the plan come together?
Well, essentially, they decided that it was time to insert Tua and go with him. And I think they felt like if he was good enough to play Sunday against the Jets, he's good enough to be out there on November 1st, almost a year to the date that he got hurt, to start against the Los Angeles Rams in his first NFL start. And again, there's a situation here where Tua is somebody that has impressed them in camp. And while we were celebrating Tua getting the job yesterday, I think everybody kind of overlooked the fact and just expected Ryan Fitzpatrick to accept this peacefully and gracefully and everything would just go on. And I think obviously it didn't sit great with him. He wasn't really pleased about getting the news from the Dolphins, then being on a Zoom call with those people and being on a Zoom call with Tua. And he loves these people and he respects them. But you could understand, as he said, he got fired yesterday. Those were his words, not mine. He got fired and then had to be around the people who fired him and face the people who took his job. That would be difficult and awkward for anybody to accept that.
Marcus, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to go back to the part about I just didn't like Fitzy saying he was shocked. Like, that's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that and not shocked from the standpoint of him not already knowing that he would eventually lose the job to Tua, but I felt like, look, I'll tell you this. When I was playing with the Dallas Cowboys and we made the transition from Drew Bledsoe to Tony Romo, and Bill Parcells obviously had a conversation with Drew Bledsoe before he came and announced it in the team meeting. I'm not Key, were you there then?
No.
Were you with?
No.
So he came in, he had a conversation with Drew Bledsoe, and then he came in and he was emotional. Bill Parcells, I'm talking about giving Tony Romo the reins. So I just don't like the fact that based on what I'm hearing and what I'm reading from Fitz, I felt like Flores and somebody in that organization should have said, hey, we making this move. It's going to be a lot of media done, people asking you questions. We want you to be prepared and give you a heads up as opposed to being shocked about this move being made right now. That's my point. Outside of that, this is football. I'm with Key. This football. Yeah. This is what happens.
Part of it, baby.
When somebody think it's a better player in the position, that better player is going to play even on an idea, even if you don't know yet. But I just didn't like Fitz. Almost this idea of being blindsided by this move. I think he's earned a bit more respect than that.
Yeah, and Flores said that he wanted to get to the team before it got out, but that's just not how it went down. And moves like this, guys, not completely unprecedented. Take a look at what Kurt Warner tweeted yesterday. He said, I know what my man Fitzmagic is feeling in 04 with the New York Giants. We were a playoff team after 9 games. He wasn't playing as well as Fitz, he said. Then they moved on to Eli Manning. Sucked for me. But I knew it wasn't about that season, but the future, I'd have to say, worked out pretty well for the G-men. Eli Manning said this in a tweet responding to Kurt. He said, thanks for being such a class act and a great mentor to me. Certainly part of the game. All right, when win-loss records don't tell the whole story, just hand it over to a couple of star QBs in the AFC North to see where their teams are trending. Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson sound off next. And we're going to get more into Antonio Brown. The latest regarding this breaking news that the Seattle Seahawks are positioning themselves as a strong landing spot for the veteran wide receiver, what that means for their offense and Russell Wilson, and so much more. It is all coming your way on NFL Live. We will be right back.
Around him than Lamar himself, he's fine.
How about this? Over his last 4 games, Jackson's completed just 57% of his passes. That's the 3rd lowest rate by a QB since week 3, trailing only 2 Jets quarterbacks in Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold. But Dan says he's fine, so he must be fine. All right, how about Odell Beckham Jr., if I can talk, coming off an ugly performance for the Browns against division rival Steelers. He said this today. Take a listen.
I'm pissed, and at this point, I really don't care to keep trying to make myself look like a good guy into the world and all that because I am who I am. I got pulled out of the game. The coach said this was the best decision. You know, it's 8 minutes left, and for me, I'd rather take my children like a man.
Key, what do we think?
Look, if I was OBJ, I wouldn't even get caught up in what people got to say. Just continue to keep performing. Pittsburgh game, you had 2 catches. It was an off night. Prior to that, you were 4, 5, and 5 on catches. You scored 2 touchdowns against Dallas. Your team is rolling. They're 4-2. Although people will question the type of competition that they won those games against, just keep playing, man. Don't worry about everybody else. People always going to talk, OBJ. Just do your job.
Pretty good Steelers D he was going against, by the way. And how about Odell's quarterback, Baker Mayfield? He has this Browns team at 4-2, but he doesn't think that's good enough. Here's what Baker said today.
I don't give a damn what they say. It's within this building. We know we can be better. I know I can be better, and that's how it's going to be handled. 4-2's never felt so much like 0-6 before. So, but that's because we have very high expectations for ourselves. So we're eager to get back to work and to get out there and fix the problems that we know are within our own control.
Marcus, what do you think?
I like what Baker Mayfield is saying about not giving a damn about what pundits say. I just hope he truly believes that, and that's how he moving. And obviously on the field, he wants better performances against the good teams that they've lost to, especially the ones in their division. So Baker, look, we're going to continue to talk when you have bad ones. We're going to talk when you have good ones. The bottom line is this. In these particular games, you got to show up, big dog.
Back to our breaking news today, guys. Adam Schefter reporting earlier about Antonio Brown. Adam, go ahead and tell us the news.
Laura, with Antonio Brown eligible to be reinstated after Week 8, and we are entering Week 7, the Seattle Seahawks are positioned to make a push to sign him right now. He's been connected to this team before, but the connections right now seem stronger than ever before. He basically worked out this offseason with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. He's remained in contact with him. They've talked about how he could and would fit in to Seattle. I think the team is definitely interested in signing Antonio Brown, but so are other teams. They're also monitoring the situation. Now, Antonio Brown still needs to be reinstated, but there's absolute interest at this point in time with his suspension eligible to end after next week. He's eligible to come off that list right before the trade deadline. So that would be one more move that could be made in a flurry of moves. But it does seem like there's some momentum building for Antonio Brown to wind up back in the league, and Seattle remains a prime landing spot at this point in time, Laura.
Yeah, the Seahawks wide receivers already lead the league in touchdown receptions, and they get so much separation, getting an average of 3.6 yards in separation. That's second best in the league. This could be real scary and also great for Russell Wilson. Dan, when you think about a guy who seemingly is mounting this MVP campaign this season, what does Russ look like cooking with AB added to the mix?
I just think of their 3 wide receiver set, their 11 personnel grouping. I mean, I'm just going to throw those names out there so everyone can listen to them. At tight end, you're going to have Greg Olsen. And then on one side of the field, you'll have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in the slot. DK Metcalf's becoming a top 5, top 10 receiver. Tyler Lockett already is a top 5 slot player. And then on the other side, you would have Antonio Brown. And yes, I'm making an assumption that he's a really good physically, in a good place physically and a good place mentally right now. Good luck trying to stop that. Good luck trying to stop that. I do think it's a fair question, though, Laura. You see what's going on in Las Vegas with the Raiders. Things are going well there. And obviously, New England is perfectly fine. It is a fair question to ask, why does Pete Carroll think that he'll be able to handle it and their organization will be able to handle it when AB in the situation better than it did in Oakland when they were the Raiders when he was there, or in New England? Why do they think it will work out better? I think is a fair question to ask.
And I'll answer that for you because I know Pete very well. He has full confidence, Dan, in this situation. He's been there before, whether it was in college taking chances on guys or whether it's in the NFL taking chances on guys. And you're right about being the top receivers in the league with these 3 guys added to the mix. And now all of a sudden you bring AB in there. The one thing that I like about it, though, he's going to give that hustle mentality to those guys, that aggressive attacking style, meaning that he wants to start at 0 and finish at 100 all the time. And they need that. They need that alpha dog type mentality. DK Metcalf is young. Tyler Lockett is a good receiver in the slot. But when you have that dog mentality at that skill position, that's a whole nother level, Marcus.
No doubt, man. Listen, this is unfair. Let's be honest, man. Like, we having a conversation about this receiving core. The damn quarterback is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson then made fine cheeses, not having guys like this to throw the football to. And now you're going to give him one of the best receivers that ever played a damn game and a young emerging star in DK Metcalf. And Tyler Lockett would be a focal point on a lot of offenses in the NFL. This is unfair when you're giving this to a Hall of Fame quarterback. And another thing, too, when you start thinking about the NFC and we looking at the team's firepower, who, for all intents and purposes, everybody sitting on this show, who are you going to have to outduel to win a Super Bowl? It's going to be Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And you could legitimately say, if the Seattle Seahawks pick up Antonio Brown, that is a more devastating offense than the one that they have in Kansas City. Think about that for a second.
Okay, real fast, because we have to go to break. How hard is it to stay in shape? Like, is he going to be in shape?
Well, he's been doing football acclimated things. He'll get in this. He'll work his way into shape football shape. He's in shape, though. You don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
AB works. That's one thing he does is work.
All right, we got more on this and much more coming your way on NFL Live. Let's get to the Cardinals defense. They showed up and showed out against Dallas with a backup quarterback, but can they avoid getting quarterback? What impressed you?
Budda Baker. I mean, that's really it. Vance Joseph putting Budda Baker in positions to make plays. Let's remember, Budda Baker is an all-pro guy. So it's not like out of the question that he would do and go crazy on the Dallas Cowboys. And you said, let's not talk about the Cowboys. Well, we got to, because you got to look at the way that they played. There's a decimated offensive line that they played up against, right? You had a running back who fumbled twice. At that point, Ezekiel Elliott, he was kind of checked out of the game to a degree. Zeke started running out of bounds. He started running out of bounds to protect the football. So that was just, you're looking at those sort of things. Michael Gallup dropped the football in the end zone. He couldn't even place his hands right. He's a professional receiver. That had nothing to do with the Arizona Cardinals' defense. They're a good defense. They're okay. But let's not confuse them for the San Francisco 49ers defense of a year ago or my Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense that won the Super Bowl or the 85 Bears. Let's just not do that.
Marcus.
Yeah, look, y'all know me enough to know now that I'm really judgmental based on the opponents that you play. And I just don't have – there's not enough people on Arizona's schedule right now for me to determine that they are a really good defense. And numbers can be skewed based on your opponents. Let's be honest. They played the Jets. They played the Cowboys. They gave up 31 points to the Carolina Panthers. Now they get into the meat of their schedule. When they get in their division, they got to face some teams. Obviously, San Francisco is not the same, but they got to face some teams where we are really going to be able to tell if they are the legitimate defense starting this week. Russell Wilson will be staring down the barrel against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if they go into that game and they leave out of that game with the red zone efficiency and being able to have Budda Baker take the chances that he was able to take against the Cowboys and not get burned and give up 60, 50-yard bombs over the top of their heads, if they stop the guy that threw 5 touchdowns on Bill Belichick's defense, the same Bill Belichick defense that only gave up like 13 points, I think, to the Kansas City Chiefs or whatever it was, then I'll be ready to jump on board with the Arizona Cardinals defense. I ain't there yet. They ain't played nobody, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, I'm going to try to get you there a little bit more. Check this out. This is week 16 of last season. The Cardinals held Russell Wilson to a QBR of 10.9 in their win. The Seahawks, 11-3 at the time. They were tied atop the division, if you remember, trying for that #1 seed in the conference. But they were stomped by that Cardinals D. All right, Dan, do you think this Cardinals defense could give Wilson something to think about on Sunday?
Absolutely. Marcus just sounds like a hater right now. Like, listen, they don't need to be the San Francisco 49er defense of last year. But can they own a certain part of the field? Like, can they be really good in a certain area? Because right now, they are. Like, offensively, they're the second best red zone offense in the NFL, and that's because of the quarterback run. And defensively, they're the second best red zone defense in the NFL. And it's because their communication's really good, and that matters when you get down there. Watch the communication between the safeties. Like, hey, Patrick Peterson's got to go outside. I got to go inside. How about Byron Murphy Jr. and the linebacker? Like, you got to stay outside. I got to stay inside. Like, that's called gloving people up. That leads to a sack. There's another opportunity in 3-0. That safety's telling that corner, like, if he goes vertical, I'm going to push to that trips up top.
Pieces you've been raving about Arthur Smith as well, the offensive coordinator. But it's not only, look, this offensive line is physical. I want to see how they do without Taylor Lewan because he was a big part of what they did as far as being that athletic O-line that wanted to get out on those boots. But look at the dilemma that they put you in. From a defensive perspective, this is what I'm looking at offensively. Here you got almost like a trap action from Jonnu Smith, who Dan mentioned earlier. It's 3 guys outside of your trap guy. Not good. That safety right there was in a dilemma. He could not see the action in the backfield between Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry because you don't know what the play action is doing. It may be a pass going over your head. He has a deep responsibility. And then when you look up after that false step, there is a 250-pound aminal coming downhill on you. There is no way you're going to make that play. So not only are they creating trap action with the tight end coming from opposite side of the line of scrimmage, they also making you guess whether it's a run or pass. And then after you figure it out, it's so late that a big fella is coming down that's hard to tackle. Tennessee, they putting people in a bind offensively along with that big back that they have in the backfield.
Yeah, you mentioned, Marcus, left tackle Taylor Lewan dealing with that torn ACL. Let's get Adam Schefter back in here because the Titans offense could be getting some good news, getting some more pieces back this week. What's the latest there?
Well, there's good and bad, Laura. As you mentioned, Ty Sombrero will replace Taylor Lewan at left tackle. That's the initial plan. We'll see how he fares for one of the top offensive tackles in the game. In the interim, wide receiver Corey Davis is coming off the reserve COVID-19 list. That'll be a boost for Tennessee's passing game, which has been thriving with the combination of Derrick Henry running the football. And Jonnu Smith did sprain his ankle at practice last week. He was limited in practice today. So if he's limited today, that would give you some hope that he would be available for Sunday's big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, Key, there was a lot of talk about the Ravens as the clear number 2 team in the NFL at the start of the season. The clear number 1 would be the Chiefs, as you might imagine. Have the Titans surpassed the Ravens as that number 2 team in the NFL?
I think so, for me especially. But when you look at it's the same team except one guy, the quarterback. And you say, how could that be? Lamar Jackson is the MVP. He dazzles us with running, but he doesn't dazzle us late in games with his capability of throwing the football. We're still questioning what the passing offense looks like in Baltimore. And what I mean by that, this is portable. You can take this offense and move it anywhere for Tennessee. They could certainly go back to Kansas City, let's say in the AFC Championship game, and win that football game because Tannehill, you trust him late in games.